thought it was kung fu fighting. Hi everyone, welcome to my show where we discuss movies, specifically horror films, cause it's October. Hoorah! This thing's still not cooperating. Today we're gonna be talking about a movie that I actually really love. Let me scoot over here so I can put the poster on that other side. There we go. I'm gonna be talking about Phantom of the Paradise, which is a film. Actually, I have the Blu-ray. Let me get it real quick. I have the Blu-ray of Phantom of the Paradise. You probably can't see it very well because it's very dark in my room. But yeah, it's actually the Scream Factory release for Phantom of the Paradise. Great release, actually. This is a really cool Blu-ray, and I'm glad I have it. But yeah, that's a movie directed by the one and only Brian De Palma, he's also directed Carrie. He's also directed Scarface. And he's a cool dude, and he apparently likes to molest little children. Or am I getting him mixed up with someone else? I don't know. Phantom of the Paradise is a film that I actually really love. And I just saw it for the very first time this year. And I just watched it a second time a couple days ago, you know, in favor for this review. And just because I wanted to see the movie again because it's just so fun. The film is about a music composer named Winslow Leach. And Winslow Leach gets his song stolen from a record tycoon who people call him Swan, and Swan is a very bad dude. And Swan owns his own record label called Death Records, and yeah, and he basically just steals Winslow's song and uses his song so that a band under his label can play them, and then, you know, this song could get a bunch of hits. And long story short, Winslow becomes disfigured, so his face is all messed up, and his teeth get extracted, so now he has, like, shiny metal teeth. And he wears this really awesome mask that kind of like resembles a bird. And he basically tries to stop Swan from releasing his song so that the band under his label could play at Swan's new music palace called the Paradise, hence the name Phantom of the Paradise. So yeah, I think you could see where this is going. And then eventually Swan makes him sign a contract, and then he sells his soul to the devil without realizing it, and he's still gonna steal his song so that the band under his label could play it at the Paradise. And but only, you know, Winslow wants, or the Phantom now, only wants this specific girl that he really likes to sing the song, and he's gonna kill anybody else who tries to sing the song. She's the only person that can sing it. And yeah, so that's basically Phantom of the Paradise. My god. Describing this movie, I either made perfect sense or no sense at all to some of you out there. Yeah, but Phantom of the Paradise is definitely a one-of-a-kind movie that actually a lot of people consider to be like, you know, a cult classic. The film, of course, did not do very well upon its initial release back in 1974. A lot of people didn't either hear about it or didn't like it. It just wasn't that big of a film upon its initial release. However, as years went on, the movie became more and more popular, and it became more and more recognized, and now it's considered, you know, a cult classic among many people. And yeah, man, I could definitely see why. This movie's a lot of fun. One thing that I absolutely love about this film is the soundtrack. I actually have the soundtrack somewhere here. Let me try and pull it out or find it. There it is. Ow, god, that hurt. Here's the soundtrack to Phantom of the Paradise. I actually bought the CD the very first day I watched this because I was like, I need to get the soundtrack to this movie. And I did. And you know what? I listen to this in my car all the time. Like, every song is awesome. I'm always listening to this soundtrack when I'm driving. It's a really great soundtrack with some awesome songs. And, yeah, man, this soundtrack is amazing. The score, everything, you know, music-wise is amazing in this film, which should come to no surprise considering that the movie is somewhat a musical. Music plays a very important factor in this film, and yeah, all the music in this film is great. Like, all the songs are actually really catchy. But yes, great soundtrack and great movie as well. I really like this movie. Like I said, it is a lot of fun. The film is very campy, but at the same time, it's very self-aware of that. And the movie just perfectly encapsulates everything I love about schlocky B horror movie films, you know? The film references lots and lots of classic horror stories, as well as classic horror films. I've noticed, you know, a lot in this movie. It pays homage to, of course, Phantom of the Opera, considering that the title of the film is Phantom of the Paradise, and there's even a scene where, you know, they're, one of Swan's bands is playing at the Paradise, and, you know, it's Phantom of the Paradise, Phantom of the Opera, of course, you know, that's a big, you know, homage to that. It also pays homage to the classic story of Faust, which is also, you know, a story about a man who sells his soul to the devil. And, you know, that's essentially what Winslow does in this film. He sells his soul to the devil, or for rock and roll in this case. And the whole backstory of Swan as well, you know, just essentially pays homage to the Pictures of Dorian Gray, which is very interesting. And there's even a scene where one of Swan's bands is playing at the Paradise, and, you know, they're sort of dressed up as, like, Cesar from the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And even the background, you know, of the concert, there's all this, like, German expressionism going on and all that stuff. So it pays homage to the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and it pays homage as well as to Frankenstein, you know, because there's a character I forgot to mention in this film, and his name's Beef, which is like the most amazing character name ever. And Beef's whole entrance in this concert is paying homage to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So there's all just... The point is, there's a lot of references to, you know, old classic horror stories and films, which, you know, this movie does a very, very good job at. And it basically just takes all these classic horror stories and films and just puts it into one big movie, you know, just one big reference. And as a result, it's just a really, really fun movie, you know, that it just every, you know, horror fan could enjoy. And another thing about this movie is that it often gets compared to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, of course, because both movies are very, very similar, seeing that they're both musicals and that they both came out around the same time. And, you know, this movie actually came out before Rocky Horror Picture Show. However, it's not quite as famous. You know, not a lot of people know about this movie, which is a real shame because personally, just as my personal opinion, I think this movie's a lot better than Rocky Horror Picture Show. Can you stop with that shit? But yes, I like this movie better than the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Not saying that the Rocky Horror Picture Show is bad. You know, I still like it as a movie, but it's just... This movie's so much better in every way, you know, just as like a horror musical that pays homage to all these classic, you know, horror films and stories. It's just, it does such a perfect job at that, and it does a much better job at, you know, Rocky Horror Picture Show. And personally, I might even argue that the songs in Phantom of the Paradise are better than the Rocky Horror Picture Show, at least for me, you know. I really, really dig the soundtrack to this movie. I can't express that enough. But yeah, man, this movie is very, very underrated. Very, very underrated. It's slowly, you know, becoming more and more popular as the years go on. More and more people are starting to, you know, find out about it, and, you know, yeah, it's definitely a movie that deserves a lot more recognition than it gets. Another thing as well is, I would also like to point out that don't go into this movie expecting a flat-out horror film, because it really isn't a horror film, like, at all. It's not necessarily a horror film in itself, but rather just kind of pays homage to all those classic horror films and stories. The Rocky Horror Picture Show isn't necessarily a horror film either, you know. It's kind of, you know, the exact same case with this movie, you know. They're not necessarily horror movies, but they do reference a lot of other, you know, sci-fi horror films. So yeah, there you go. It's not necessarily a horror film, but it's definitely a very, very fun movie to watch, especially during the Halloween season, at least for me, you know. I know probably when you guys watch this, you might not look at it as a movie you would watch during Halloween, because it's not really... You know, there's nothing really that Halloween about it, besides the fact that it references a lot of horror films. But for me personally, you know, this movie, I would love to watch every Halloween. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I watched it around Halloween, but I don't know. It's just, it's a great movie nonetheless. You guys should just watch it. Very, very fun movie from the 70s. And the more and more I watch it, the more and more I begin to realize that it might even be one of my favorite films, personally. I really, really love this film, you guys. I would definitely recommend it. It's definitely worth a watch. And overall, I'm probably going to give The Phantom of the Paradise a 4.5 out of 5. Very fun movie. Cannot express that enough. Great soundtrack, you know, the acting, you know, everything about this movie is very campy, very corny, like I said, but it's just so much fun. So much fun, and like I said, pays all these homages to all these great classic horror films and stories, and just the movie's perfect. I really don't know how else to describe it other than that. For what it sets out to do, it's perfect. The movie is perfect, and I absolutely love every second of it. It's just a really, really fun movie, and it's, you know, incredibly rewatchable. Very, very rewatchable movie. And yeah, I would also highly recommend picking up the Scream Factory release for this film if you guys haven't. This is a really, really great Blu-ray release that I'm actually really glad I have, and it also, I believe, comes with the poster for the movie, which I don't have with me, but yeah, really, really great, great Blu-ray as well. So pick up the Blu-ray if you haven't yet, and definitely check out this movie. It's definitely a lot of fun, so yeah, watch it. And that is it. That is it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more horror Halloween reviews coming for you in the future. And I'm Jacob Palacio, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.